Alright guys, so recently, probably within the last 2 days, I fixed up this fountain here. And I'll tell you a little bit about how I did it. So, believe it or not, this fountain actually doesn't have a whole lot to it. I mean, come to think of it, I'm actually not too surprised. But anyway, it's literally just the statue, a pump, and a hose that connects the pump to the statue. And the first thing I had to do was I took the statue off, which is actually really heavy, by the way, and took out the pump, because the pump just kind of lies in a little basin over there that feeds through with that little hole. And the pump, thankfully, I plugged it in, and it worked. So I knew there was still potential into fixing this. I mean, this fountain is kind of getting old, so the fact that the pump was even still working was quite the shock to me, I'll be honest. But as you can see here, this is still using the original pump. We are still working, which is amazing. And after that, it was just a matter of cleaning the whole thing. Because this thing hadn't been used in probably like 5 to 10 years before fixing it a week ago. So, of course, there were a bunch of leaves and dirt and other crud in there that I had to get out. So I did. And I mean, I kind of didn't do it in an efficient way. If you can, and you're doing this, I highly recommend using a shop vac or a wet dry vac or something like that to, what's it called? To clean all that out, because it's a lot faster. It'll definitely be a lot faster and a lot more just efficient in general. But if you don't have a wet dry vac, you can try to do it the way I did it. I just used a garden shovel to get out a lot of the big chunks, like the leaves and big clumps of dirt and dust. And I then used high-pressured water coming from the hose to kind of flush out any excess debris and dirt that was at the bottom that I couldn't really get a good grip of with the shovel. I mean, as you can see, there's still some dirt in there, but, I mean, that could also be new. I'm honestly not sure. But, I mean, this is about as clean as I think it's going to get. And I mean, it is what it is, and honestly, it's still pretty good. So I'm happy with the way it turned out. But once I cleaned it, I had to do the harder task of cleaning the hose, which thankfully wasn't too bad, but it was definitely a bit harder than the fountain itself, because you had to take the hose out from the bottom of the statue, meaning you had to tilt it. And the hose was kind of on a weird angle going into the statue, so that was fun, obviously. But then, the hardest part of all was cleaning out the little hole where the water comes out from the pitcher over here. That, let me tell you, was a nightmare. We had to tilt the statue over completely, and by then the water was kind of evaporated. We had to wait for it because the thing was full after cleaning it the first time with water. But after we cleaned we had to jab a little, one of those wire hangers into there from the top and from the bottom. And we kind of just had to like poke until we got good flow. And the way we tested our flow was by using just a very focused, high-pressure jet on the hose, flushing it into the little hole, and then waiting for a decent amount of flow to come out from the bottom. And we knew what it needed to look like because the clogged hose, not only did it take forever to drain off the top there, but it also only came out of the bottom in drips. We wanted a steady flow, a somewhat steady flow as best as possible. And eventually we got that. We just kind of had to jab in from both sides with the hanger. Of course, we straightened that out. And we straightened out the hanger to kind of get it in there. And this is, again, at a weirder angle, so I mean, we did the best we could, and eventually, we were able to get the gunk or whatever was clogging the interior pipe in there out. And I mean, this material, like I said, I mean, you can't just take apart the statue. So we had to jab it in that way. Obviously, less than ideal, but I mean, we got the job done. And surprisingly, it didn't take too long either. It took us about 10 minutes probably to clean out the interior there. And considering how dirty and weird the angle, how weird it was to kind of get in there, I'd say it was good. And then another thing that I didn't realize that we had to consider was there was also a little bracket on the hose that goes from the pump to the statue bottom that restricts the flow, because with max flow, and I tried it, this thing, like from the picture, imagine like a hot tub with the bubbles on max, like on its max setting. It was a lot of water coming out at once, and it really didn't have a steady flow like we have it here. So, you know, we had to use a little bracket to fix that up. And the bracket actually wasn't, it was kind of simple. It was just one of those ones you kind of screw with a little screw on top, and it has a plate that just squishes that'll squish the hose. And originally I thought that was actually causing a restriction because it was squeezing a lot. And, you know, over the years it probably did kind of squeeze it shut a little bit. Nothing some pliers couldn't fix to kind of reopen the kinked hose. It's just a rubber hose, so that was easy. But yeah, once we finally figured out that once we cleaned the statue pipes, we then had to put the brackets back in to restrict the flow a little bit to get this kind of flow we got here. And again, that's pretty much how this fountain is fixed. If you scroll to the right, I'm gonna put a little video of just the fountain running as is, with just the outdoor sounds, if that's your kind of thing. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching this, and hope you found it a little helpful or interesting.